News Live. I'm with my BFF Keyan. How's your week going?
It's a really good week. I enjoy it when the world is on fire, and that appears to be what's going on right now. I don't know. I mean, otherwise it was a pretty normal week. Lots of lots of macro kind of crypto sector news, but that's other than that pretty normal. How about your week?
It's been crazy, dude.
Yeah,
seeing all this FTX drama is just insane. It's like this actually feels like just a train wreck, and you just cannot not look at it. If that this is the first time I felt like this in a really long time. Yeah. Probably since the Quadriga X thing or whatever, the Quadriga CX. Remember when the guy went to India and then they don't know?
No, I don't think I was paying attention to any of that stuff. Was there a moment like this in the last bull run?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't remind. I mean, the stakes are way heavier now, but this feels like that kind of just craziness, drama unfolding. It's just you're looking at it minute by minute for updates. It's nerve-wracking watching all this kind of take place.
Yeah.
That's been my week.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is people are really interested in the minute-to-minute stuff. I find it kind of just nauseating, but I don't care. After the first tweet where Sam Bankman-Fried is like, we need an acquirer, I was like, all right, it's over. No, I don't need any more information now. This is done. But I mean, it's kind of nice to know everything that went on, like how they were doing sort of a Ponzi, but it's really, I mean, if you consider fractional reserve banking a Ponzi, then it is a Ponzi. And it wasn't even as severe a fractional reserve banking as the actual banks use, which is kind of weird. I think it was they had a 50% reserve.
Yeah, it was some kind of weird. I'm doing research on it now because I'm going to write about it. But it was some weird kind of collateralized thing that they had going on. It's DeFi Ponzinomics, or what do you call it?
Ponzinomics.
There you go. That's it. That's what it was. It was complete. It was complete, just unchecked. Who's looking over his shoulder? No one was, right? And you find out that they were in the Bahamas doing all sorts of crazy things, and this guy was just playing League of Legends when he was raising for his company, and no one was checking this guy. It's just unbelievable. You go to MIT and then you get this free F everything kind of I'm not saying they're all like that. I'm just saying it seemed like he went to MIT and he just had this his morality just completely different in how he entered this space, and it's very reminiscent of crypto, dude. This is why I left crypto. It was nothing. It was just all like that. Snake oil salesman. It was bad.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We can we'll get into it a little bit more. I think fortunately there's only really, if you look at the top stories of the week, there's only one top story on FTX. Even the top 21 stories, which is freaking awesome, shows that stackers are as annoyed by the frequency of this particular news cycle as I am. But we'll get into that a little bit later, or probably throughout the whole thing. But the top story of the week is this post that I shared amidst the FTX news, where I was browsing stacker news, is
that the top story?
Trying to find things to read, and I was just God, I'm just tired of this. I want to. Is anyone building anything? Is anyone doing anything else? I go on Twitter looking for stories, see if anyone's released anything or done anything, and it's all just kind of FTX stuff. And I'm okay, so maybe. What are people building? And I know there are people still building amidst all this stuff. So I went and I asked, and got a pretty nice beefy thread going. And we're thinking of doing this thread weekly now, because it seems like there are a lot of people who are building. I used to try to do this back very early on Stacker News.
I used to do it a lot more often.
That was it was when we probably a month in, and I would do these attempt to do these like daily or weekly what are you building threads, but we didn't have enough users to really get much response. But this one got quite a bit, and it's really cool to see all the things stackers are building. Some of the top highlights: Satoshi Naka is beefing up their liquidity on their Lightning node by taking fiat to the post office and buying KYC-free Bitcoin, which is pretty cool. Nerd to Ninja is building ads for a trade network. So they're doing research, trying to figure out what demographics kind of need it the most. And what did they say? They said, Bitcoin is for people who need it. If you don't need it, you won't get it. If you need it, you don't need me to convince you. Is kind of what he quoted there. And so what he decided to do was look at a map of poverty rates in Virginia. And then that's who I think they're going to target with their Bitcoin ads, which is a pretty cool approach. Handsome Latinos working on Nostr Explorer. I know, Car, you've been spending a lot of time on Nostr.
Actually, I came back for this FTX.
That didn't last long.
Well, no, dude, I literally was holding steady, holding frame there, and then everything happened, and no one's talking about it. As you know, like most developers don't want to hear about this FTX stuff. They just want to keep working. If anything, they get annoyed by it. So like I had to go back to Twitter to re-engage.
I mean, you could have brought some of the FTX stuff onto Nostr, right? You could have.
No, dude, it's still, it reminds me of Stacker News in the early days where it was just a lot of builders, a lot of developers, and that's what it was.
Yeah, makes sense. Anyway, he built the Nostr Explorer.
Nice. Check that out.
User 21 million is learning HTML. Really cool. There's a lot of stackers who are like just getting started coding. It's awesome. Ben the Carmen chimes in talking about him and Tony and Paul building Mutiny Wallet, and some of the progress they've made on that, where they're actually running a Lightning node in a browser, which is freaking cool. I'm really looking forward to the work they're doing there. I occasionally overhear them in Pleb Lab talking about like the progress they're making, and really excited. But we had a lot of stuff in here. If you're curious what people are building, who might not have like a ton of visibility, it's a great thread to go and check out. And we'll be doing these threads weekly, or trying to. We'll see if there's as much interest as there was this week into the future.
Also, check out the bolt.fun. I know they've been posting on here as well too, where they'll put like, oh, this project is in the bolt.fun hackathon thing. So definitely check out bolt.fun too. They have tons of links and stuff. Kyle was telling me that he can't click on the links though. So maybe Johns or Ed can look at that. Like when they try clicking on the projects, it doesn't go to it, but
yeah, when is the Bolt Fun Hackathon over?
I think it's officially over in November-ish, early December. So less than a month away. But they're doing weekly updates on Discord. So
cool.
Get into that
yeah,
Discord
I talked
channel.
to Johns. Johns is awesome. I had a meeting with him earlier this week. And
good.
Yeah, it's cool to touch base with him and cool to sync up. Love what they're doing with Bolt Fun. And I love when people post their Bolt Fun projects over to Stacker News. We have Juan, who's working on light sats, and he posts pretty regularly, and it's cool to see like how much progress he went from in like a month to now. It was like 0 when he first posted, here's my idea, what do you think about it? And now he's like, they've actually shipped it, and it's actually like a usable product, which is awesome. But yeah,
it's cool. Yeah, and I think that particular project, we had a chance to talk with him. I think that particular project was all coordinated around bolt.fun. So it's creating projects, and it's creating teams in the space, which is kind of cool. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. Lots of people building out there, even though the market is dumping. Here is a really great video from Matt Corallo, an OG Bitcoin dev. He started contributing, I think it might have been as early as 2011. I don't actually remember, but I know he's been in the space for a long time and has a really thorough like point of view on everything. And every time I can get to see him talk, I've watched several of his YouTube videos, but I missed him this year at TABConf, and Tony Giorgio shared this, and Tony had also told me this was his favorite talk at TABConf. But it's a great talk if you want to learn about all the things that are broken in Lightning, or in other words, like not ideal. I recommend watching this talk, but like a TLDR of it, I watched it this afternoon, is it really kind of goes over six panes of Lightning right now. And number one is that your nodes need to be online. So if you're using it on a mobile-like device, Lightning kind of sucks because you can't receive unless your node is like able to communicate with the internet, and that requires like an app to be open on a mobile phone, which sucks. If you're and then it also is bad for a sender if you're attempting to send. And the payment fails, you have to keep your app open to retry. There's no like, you can't just shut the app after you attempt to send. You have to wait for it to be successful. So in general, the UX kind of sucks on mobile. A number of other things like watchtowers aren't as thorough in what they watch as you would kind of want. You can still lose money if you have watchtowers up and your node goes down and someone attempts to steal funds from you, because HTLCs aren't tracked on watchtowers. Mempool pinning attacks are another thing. Payment routing is hard because channel balances are private. There's several privacy things that are not great in Lightning as well. And then channel jamming is also an existent phenomena, or something that can still be done. But what's kind of cool is like all of these things are, I know for a fact, like watching the dev mailing lists and kind of seeing all of the updates from the dev community, that a lot of these things are getting worked on, to varying levels, of course. But I know like a lot of things are being done about certain privacy aspects of Lightning, and also payment routing. A lot of work is getting done on that as well. There was just a great channel jamming research paper that came out that kind of involves having more or less a trust metric in the Lightning network, a reputation metric, and then also charging a small spam fee. Anyway, but if you want to see all the things that need to be worked on in Lightning, it's a great talk to watch. And I think, to bring Car in on this discussion, it reminded specifically number one, where he talks about nodes needing to be on the line and the UX sucks on mobile. Like one of the problems with mobile phones for Lightning nodes is that the operating systems on mobile phones are somewhat discriminatory against something running always online. And so they tend to deprioritize certain applications on the phone to preserve battery life. And it's looking like that's probably not going to change anytime soon. So it might be, maybe at some point having a dedicated mobile device for Lightning might make sense. I know.
Oh, wow. Now you're coming back to this?
I'm just bringing it up because I know you got.
Well, I have a question for you.
Spicy about it.
I have a question for you. So when I had talked to the guys right after this talk, because I literally caught them walking away from this talk, and I had talked to Paul, and Paul was like, yeah, depending on who you ask and how you feel after watching this talk, you're either going to be bearish or bullish on Lightning. And then when I interviewed Paul for the pod, he was telling me that he thinks it's going to get to a point where you're going to. And so my question to you is, like, do you think it'll get to a point where we'll have to start paying for these channels? Like it'll have to be basically like, not gonna say a custodian, that's strong of a word, but it'll have to be regulated to some sort, or maybe it's just like an industry regulation or a framework, or of like of how all this gets what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like not controlled, but stable, I guess would be the way I'm trying to get to. Because like it sounded like when they were coming out of there that everything felt like it was broken, and there was just no way that it could have been fixed without some kind of like third party or some kind of system in place that dictates that.
No, I think that's the wrong read. I think it's really, it's easy. This is why a lot of people, there's a difference between like being negative or being against something and, having a nuanced perspective on it that sheds light on a side that a lot of people are neglecting. And I think in this case, it's purely here's an enumeration of all the things that are wrong. It's like when you take your car in for maintenance and your car mechanic says you're low on oil. He's not saying your car is going to explode. What he's saying is you probably need to put oil in it soon. And so is he being negative? Is he being a bear on your car? No, he's just telling you that there's maintenance that needs to be done. You need to pay attention to this thing. And that's what a lot of these, that's what this basically is. It's good housekeeping for a technology project to attempt to list out all of the bad things that are going on, or not bad things, but negative aspects, things that can be improved. And that's really the way I see it. As far as it sounds like you were talking specifically about liquidity.
Yeah.
When you're spinning up something like a mobile node, there's already a lot of approaches to doing this now. Like the Phoenix wallet will create a Lightning channel to an LSP and charge you for that. That seems to be, we have like things that are approaching a solution already to solving that problem as far as like receiving and sending from a Lightning wallet. There's also the swap. Moon provides a swap service that kind of is that operates as if it's a Lightning wallet, or appears to operate as if it's a Lightning wallet, but it isn't. But it is another like approach on this problem. I don't. How these things will get solved, I don't know. But we don't solve them by not having talks like this. We solve them by having talks like this given. And at the end of this talk, if you're paying attention, Matt is obviously not a bear on this stuff because he's working on it all the time. But if you're paying attention, he's like, I am actually optimistic on the technology. It's hard. I've noticed there's like a contingent of human beings that don't like anything negative to be said about anything ever, because it tends to break their model of reality where everything's going to work out. And I think this kind of thing is fine so long as you have the capacity to both hold in your mind at the both time that Lightning can succeed and can have problems at the same time, so long as you're just willing to work on the problems.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. But overall, really great talk. Again, Matt is a true gangster. Next top story is Anita Posch's AMA.
Who's Anita Posch?
Anita Posch is, I believe, German, but she is a Bitcoiner and she's a nomad. And she started an organization called Bitcoin for Fairness, where they do a lot of Bitcoin education. Specifically, right now, she's traveling through Africa, doing a lot of Bitcoin education there.
Good for her.
She has an awesome podcast that's been shared a number of times on Stacker News. Just talks very intelligently about Bitcoin. I don't know much of her educational work because I'm really not the target demo, but really cool. Apparently, she was I think she was the person who translated Internet of Money from Andreas into German.
Oh.
Yeah. But her background is in like web development, e-commerce, and online businesses and stuff. And then she became a Bitcoiner at some point and is now, she's currently in Zimbabwe, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But she stopped by to do an AMA, and the stackers had a lot of questions for her. I wonder how many of them are in Africa with her. She's top one is from Flo Coleman. He asks how they can support her projects in Africa. He says he can't support financially, but motivated to help in other ways. She says you could translate her Bitcoin flyer or help by sharing content on social media. And then she said, if you're a developer, we need GitHub stuff. And other people chimed in. Mr. Techmaker chimed in to help on their GitHub, which is pretty cool. Siggy47 asked about stable coins and how if Africa seems more interested in stable coins than Bitcoin, and it does seem to be the case. And she basically says that what people in Africa are looking for in terms of their money are mostly something that can't be confiscated, and doesn't need to be, isn't really permissioned by a bank or the government, which is much more likely to censor them than or restrict them than someone like Tether. Even though Tether has like censorship risk, you're not really, Tether isn't as out to get you as your local government is in many of these cases. So that's kind of why stablecoins get so much attention there. That was a good question. Kevin Rook asked a pretty interesting question about, I guess she's starting a Value for Value podcast. And he asked about that because Kevin's obviously interested in that as a Value for Value podcaster himself. And she said she's building a project that is going to do payments via Alby. And she's doing it to try to attempt to encourage other Bitcoin podcasts to do the same in the country of origin, so that they're in the native language, the listeners can relate to, and I think that's pretty awesome. I think by example.
Yeah, I think there's an overwhelming majority right now, especially on Twitter, that are talking about like, how could we have prevented the whole BlockFi FTX debacle, and it goes back to education. Like, I still think there's just not enough education in the space, and it's not even education like to the masses. It's just like local education. So if you have the means or the expertise to even teach like how to use a Lightning wallet or how to get on some of these services, like I think that's could be far more important than anything else you could do as a Bitcoiner in some of these other countries. Shout out to Mary. She was somebody that's out there in Nigeria doing that locally as well too. It's one of those things that it has to be done everywhere, and it's going to be up to Bitcoiners to actually do it. So it's kind of cool to see her doing this. Like that's huge, man. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of nice about the FTX situation and situations like it are we have like a nice list of a history of problems with using centralized custodians. And so it's going to become easier to communicate to people, hey, you shouldn't trust these people. Because if even just a week ago you had told someone you shouldn't have your funds on FTX, get them into self-custody, get them in a hardware wallet, do whatever, they would have told you you're paranoid. We already know what you think, Bitcoin maximalist. I trust Sam Bankman-Fried. He was on the cover of Fortune. Sequoia invested in him. He was on stage with Michelle Bunchen talking about how he's giving away his fortune. I trust Sam Bankman-Fried with my money. It's kind of like all of these idols are getting like taken down, and people. Yeah. I think eventually what'll happen is people will know better. And it'll be easier for us to help them know better and educate them.
Yeah, we went last night. Pleb Lab took a trip to San Antonio Bitcoin Club, and a lot of people were talking about this stuff. But it goes back to even some of those people didn't even know about like Moon Wallet or even Stacker News or even any of these services that are out there to be used. And so that to me tells me that like if we're far into this far, and they're all using Coinbase and FTX, like, man, I'm really gonna stress this bear market for the rest of this bear market. Insist on just like operating on a Bitcoin standard, like for each and everybody that you work with and pay. I know it might seem illogical and it might seem too early, but I really am feeling like this is where if everybody was operating on a Bitcoin standard, at least locally, community wise, a lot of this. Yeah, man, it's just not good.
So you're going to start taking your salary in Bitcoin. You're going to insist on getting paid in Bitcoin. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's the way, dude. I mean, that's how you get rid of this this broken system, and then paying everybody that you work with Bitcoin. So
very cool. Yeah, I think that's definitely an approach. But one of the things as comes to mind now is like, I mean, I was even on some level sort of annoyed by how the frequency with which, Bitcoiners who have been in the space much longer than me would insist on self-custody over. And it's like, I know, you don't got to tell me about self-custody. But it's really a lot of people who aren't aware of it, and how I just didn't think they were so vulnerable, as they were, and it turns out they were. So that definitely was a lesson for me this time around. That
it sounds like it's
worth reiterating over and over again.
It sounds like you have the same mindset that I do. Like, I'm not here to have a feeding frenzy on everybody and play the blame game. I'm more of like, okay, we all screwed up. Like, how do we move forward and like learn from it? And I think one of these things is like pushing for Bitcoin companies to pay you in Bitcoin, paying your writers for your publication, paying them like the way you do at Stacker News, paying people in sats, right, for writing. I think that is the way. And I think this is another reason why we should all be operating on a Bitcoin standard going forward. But it starts with yourself, right? And then you gotta like slowly tell people, and hopefully it grows. So I'm gonna work on myself and do that. I think the rest of this bear market.
One thing I'll say on this point is it sucks as a business to operate on Bitcoin 100%. Right now. Like, there's the tooling is kind of awful. Like, because what I use for like managing like payroll and stuff for Stacker News is a tool called Gusto, and it kind of does everything. Like, I literally just hit a couple buttons and like the taxes and stuff are all done, and then I'm registered to operate as an employer in a certain state or whatever. And I can't do that with a Bitcoin product. All of this stuff I would have to like hire a lawyer, be on phone calls, attempting to get all this stuff done. And so if the tooling were better, I would love to operate this way, and I think it will get better as more people.
I think we start talking about it, like like you said, having the conversation, leading by example, right? I'm gonna try to do this, and then keep talking about it, and then help people out. I mean, we see people inside of Plub Lab, I don't want to dox them, that are completely on a Bitcoin standard. So it's possible.
It is possible.
It's possible.
Yeah. The next top story is this tweet from CZ talking about potentially acquiring FTX, pending this. I mean, we can get into the tweet a little bit. I have it pulled up, but pending. I was looking at some of the memes in the thread, but pending a full due diligence on them. It turned out this was like, I don't know. I don't know if he actually meant, or if he actually thought that he would acquire them.
Yeah.
Because it was 24 hours later, he's like, fuck them. More or less. Like, he's just like, nope, not going to happen. And, yeah. And so, that was the top tweet at that time, was that, Binance was going to acquire them. I think this was the first, I think why this became a pretty big story was this was like kind of the first signal that FTX was in serious trouble, was when they were attempting to find acquirers. And, Binance is a natural acquirer of FTX, assuming FTX is worth buying, but it turns out they aren't.
What did you think of his move? Do you think he smelled blood from afar, and then did all these next 5 steps that he played to perfection, or do you think it had more to do with him like just happenstance?
He said it all aloud on Twitter. If you were reading,
that's what I'm asking. Do you think like?
I mean, no, I don't think there's any.
Do you think he was plotting the entire time over the course of like 3 years?
There's no need to guess. Like, it's like he said it all on Twitter. He's like, this fucking guy is talking shit about my company behind my back to regulators. Fuck this guy.
You're reading between the lines.
I'm not reading, but this is what he said. He
didn't say F this guy, did he?
No. Okay. I'm adding words.
Yeah.
But
he was pretty business professional about it.
I wouldn't. I mean, he's like verging on Elon with like how how he's verbalizing all of his moves. But like he basically said, this guy's talking crap about me to regulators behind my back, trying to get me regulated. I hold $2 billion worth of this Ponzi token they created and is collateral on a bunch of loans that they have. Why don't I dump it and cause their company to go out of business, given that their balance sheet was recently leaked, I think it was about a week earlier than this, and he probably had time to review it. And he's like, "Oh my God, most of their balance sheet is comprised of this token they created and are primarily determining the value of, operating under the assumption that people like me, CZ, who hold $2 billion of it, aren't going to dump it." So he moves to dump 500 million of it on the market and says so publicly, and then it begins dumping. And next thing you know, FTX is out of business.
Dude, this is the greatest story of the decade so far. Like, this takes a cake, man. You think this is a bigger story than WeWork?
It's certainly less complicated than WeWork, and like less full of like what was nice about it is we all got to watch it happen on Twitter because CZ was talking about it publicly, and it. We'd all be kind of like, it'd be a little bit mysterious if this had all happened, FTX had collapsed, and we didn't know any of the stuff was going on with CZ and Binance and stuff. But it all happening in public like this is pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. So just so the stackers know, I was watching all this unfold. All this happened before like 10:45 Texas time. Like it was like completely done, because I'm sure they were operating in different countries, but it was like completely done before 11 a.m. Like it was unfolding from like 6 a.m. onward. Man, what a good morning tweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a tweet there. And it was shortly following.
What did the stackers say? Anybody? What's the highest comment?
The top comment is talking about how it'd be funny if Binance acquired FTX and acquired all these toxic assets that FTX owns, and then itself goes under.
Yeah,
but I think CZ appears to be smarter than that.
Yeah, I mean, he was the first one, if I remember correctly. He was the first one that created the exchange token, right? Like he made the Binance coin, and then he started burning it. So
I thought BNB was wasn't it like an Ethereum?
At one time, and then they made their own chain and all this stuff. But if I remember correctly, he was the first one that actually had the first token for an exchange. And then he started burning it. And yeah, dude, the guy knows the game he's playing, and he's pretty lethal at it. It looks like. So
he'll probably be like the last scammer to die. It looks like, and I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But it sounds like he definitely outplayed Sam Bankman-Fried.
It didn't even seem like it was a match. CZ's just a freaking, yeah.
Apparently he's a savage. What I don't understand, maybe you know something about this. What I don't understand is how CZ is a Chinese company, but isn't crypto banned in China? They can't mine, they can't trade either. So
there was a time where he was hopping islands, if I remember correctly. Like he was jumping from one part of one part. There was a time where he did say he was in Shanghai, if I remember correctly. And then they went to look at the offices and nothing was there. And then he had found out he had jumped to another set of islands and then jumped again that was out of their jurisdiction. I don't know honestly how he gets around all this regulation, and we saw what he does though. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. He purchased when he launched Binance United States, or the US Binance version, he purchased the God, what was that guy's name? He worked at Coinbase too as well, but he also worked for the Securities and
Exchange Commission.
Yeah, but he was the one in charge. Oh, man, I forget the guy's name, but he actually had that guy be CEO of his United States Binance company. Okay. That's how he entered the United States, and he literally went out and bought this guy and hired him. So the guy knows how to run a company, man, especially in crypto. It's like the ending of Ozarks, right? It's like the lady's about to the guy's about to shoot the Ozark people, and then the guy's like, what do you mean? The guy's like, well, I want to buy you off, and the guy's like, well, no, you're going to jail. He's like, you don't get to be the Clintons, you don't get to be whatever. And then the Ozark people are like, no, that's not true. And then like the kid comes around.
Are you
spoiling
Ozark?
Yeah, but like the kid comes around and shoots him with the shotgun.
Don't spoil it. Ozark,
but you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like it's basically saying like the world doesn't work like that, and he's like, you're dumb. It does work like that. It's like you see it time and time again, dude. It's
yeah, he's definitely playing the game at another level. He's like the scammer king. He's like the Bane.
It's not even scammer. It's just ruthless. It's like ruthless. I don't know.
I mean, all of these. He has the same. BNB has the same problem as SBF's Ponzi. He's just being smarter about it, in my opinion. But we'll see. Yeah, that's another FTX visit for the week. But the next top story is this Bolt 12 thread from Ellen Capital.
Yeah,
which is pretty excellent. A lot of people really liked it. I think a lot of people hadn't really understood Bolt 12 yet, and they really break it down and make it simple in this thread.
So break it down for us, Keyan.
More or less, what Bolt 12 gives you is a lot of what you get with Ellen URL. That's kind of the way, probably the best way I'd explain it to someone who already understands what Ellen URL is.
But not custodied, right?
But not custodied.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or not requiring, you can use Ellen URL without in self-custody, but it requires you to have a domain name and something to serve a server at that domain name to process these requests. Yeah. So what Ellen URL gives you, if you're not familiar with Ellen URL, it gives you the ability to have a static pay code. So you can say, "Hey, Car, here's my static pay code. Scan this and send me 1,000 sats," and you can do that. And someone else can come along and scan that and send me sats from that as well, as many sats as they want. It's this URL scheme that requires a domain name to work. And then it provides a number of things, but another thing it provides is a scannable withdrawal code, so that
Bolt 12 does.
No, this is what Ellen URL does, okay. And I'll get onto what Bolt 12 provides as well. But Ellen URL provides a withdrawal code which is a scannable QR code where you can scan something for someone to pay you, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we were doing that on my iPod earlier this year.
Yeah. Ellen URL withdrawal is how all of these Sats cards work as well. Mm-hmm. It's a very convenient way.
To do offline payments.
Yeah, it's a very cool. For certain parties to be offline when they're attempting to do payments.
One or the other. Yep.
Yeah. But importantly, that's what Ellen URL is, and that's what it requires a domain name. So what Bolt 12 does is it attempts to provide within the Lightning protocol itself such functionality without the requirement of a domain name or like another service running. So that's basically what it is. It provides you the ability to have a static QR code for receiving money, provide a static QR code for someone else to receive money from you. The example they give in this thread is you go to an ATM, you deposit $10. The ATM now wants to pay you, and you can get paid by scanning a code on the ATM rather than the ATM scanning a code from you, which is how it'd work in a world without such a thing. So that's basically what Bolt 12 does, in addition to a number of other things like recurring payments. And
that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like Ellen URL has done an amazing job getting us here. I use it on Thriller Bitcoin. You use it on Stacker News. Like it's amazing. Like all these things use it. It's amazing. But I think this is the next iteration of it. Like this is what we've been waiting for, at least personally. So it's kind of cool to finally have something that no longer is custodial, and it's a balance.
And to be clear, Ellen URL isn't necessarily custodial. Just most incarnations of it happen to be custodial, and a lot of custodial services use it because it's convenient. They already have a domain.
It's really convenient. Yeah, it's so convenient.
Yeah, but this would be awesome. I think this would be a huge level up. There's a number of reasons. Like there are pretty prominent people in specifically at one company called Lightning Labs, that don't like this proposal.
Yeah, because of what's the millisats, or what is it called? The dust? Is it because of the dust? Is that what it is?
No, it's because this is effectively what this requires is sending messages, data across the Lightning Network that doesn't require payments, and that is
Extra traffic.
And so they're concerned about kind of gossip.
Yeah, that's what it was.
A lot of gossip being on the Lightning Network as a result of this. But there are proposals in Lightning right now to charge for such messages. And so we could see something like that alongside this. I think, but I mean, I think that's a pretty good opposition to this. This could be, potentially a spam or DOS vector in Lightning. But I mean, those two things can happen simultaneously. Like we could add them both, but I mean, most like in Matt Corallo's talk, he talks about how onion messaging, which basically is a precursor to some of this Bolt 12 stuff, is already present in Eclair. It's already present in Core Lightning. So the people who are working on those implementations do want this kind of functionality in it. But these people are also aware of the criticisms that are being made of Bolt 12, and that this could lead to an increase in gossip.
I've talked to Dusty about it. I've talked to Dusty about it several times. He said that it's like a thing that's in the distance, but it could be something. But to me, it's like, especially on a day like today, right? Like custodial, non-custodial. Like it's a harder sell today, especially today, physically today. Yeah. I mean, it's, so spam it's very easy to dismiss spam as like a problem in the future, is I think someone like Lightning Labs will respond to that. And we've kind of, so that's the approach. That's the approach that Nostr takes on it, is like, we'll deal with spam when it becomes a problem. And I think became a problem day 2 on Nostr November.
That's an approach you can take with Lightning as well. Like, spam might not be that significant of a problem to start out in such a protocol, and there might already be some level of spam resistance to these kinds of things. Anyways, I think you likely need to have Lightning channels, and that means that you have funds locked up on Lightning, which is somewhat of spam deterrence already. And so that might be enough to get us started using Bolt 12 before we have a little more sophisticated defense on it.
Yeah, I would say, let's try both and let's see what happens. I'm kind of looking forward to this, right? Like it's going to be good for people that have media companies and Lightning enabled ones to at least try something that's a little bit different. But right now, dude, Get Alby and LNURL is doing the job.
Yep.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll get into our personal top stories. My top story was this post by
again.
Well, this was the other top FTX story in the top stories for the week. This came out before all of the news started coming. Oh, you guys had it
first?
I don't think we had it. I don't know if we had it first, but this was some stacker who logged in with their Lightning node. Who has since stuck around a bit, but he or they said that there are rumors of insolvency at FTX and you get your money off. So this is before they paused withdrawals. So if any stacker saw this and heeded the warning, they maybe got out of FTX early, and I thought that was pretty cool. This was the first story we had on this on Stacker News. This was, I think, after the tweet from this tweet from CZ, which I think started it all off. So I think this is the thing that triggered a lot of people to think that FTX might be having issues, was where Binance is like, we're going to liquidate our FTT holdings. And then, sophisticated people, presumably like this user, or this user listened to them. They're like, get your money off of FTX now. They're going to have a problem. Maybe they're in like a private Discord where people were already talking about FTX having problems or something.
Those trading platforms.
I was in
Telegram groups and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that kind of stuff, but I thought that was pretty cool that potentially some stackers got saved by another stacker, and that is my top story of the week. But this is like right before
that's cool, man.
All the news broke.
Yeah, it was just like, honestly, it became ftxnews.com over the week.
Yeah, it was.
This is like, everything was coming. Like, look at it. It was just so much FTX stuff this week. I mean, it was a big deal, dude. Everybody was freaking out about it.
Yeah,
it's a big deal. Okay, my top story. I want to give people a little hopium on a day like today, right? Because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. Car will give you some hopium. So my top story was. Do you have it? My top story was the implosion of free. Time for big tech to rethink advertising. And so this guy, Jim Fox, he wrote this amazing article. You should definitely check it out. But he points out that Silicon Valley they're losing a lot of jobs right now. Like Meta has cut their workforce by 13%, Lyft by 13%, Stripe 14%, Amazon is on a hiring freeze, Apple's on a hiring freeze, Twitter, we saw the whole 50% drop as well there too. He goes on to say that we need to get back to like building regular businesses the old way, like actually having revenue and actually having a way to build an advertising model that works for not only the people that you're advertising to, but the people that are coming to you for that advertising. He recognizes like Lightning is a big part of that. Like what you're doing at Stacker News is a big part of that. This kind of like economy that's being built there. He also sees that Google search. He talks about Google search. This might, your friend Max, you might like this part because he talks about how like Google search is becoming one of those dying malls. You still go there out of habit. It feels like you saying this. You still go out of there out of habit, but once you get there, it's none of what you want. You can remember when it was a useful place to visit, but now it's weirdly hollow and you leave without getting what you came for. That's how you describe Google search these days.
I'm actually to insert a little bit, I'm not super unhappy with Google
I know.
search.
I was just saying like this sounded like your kind of statement.
The way I would say things.
Yeah. But he's saying that even things look bleak right now, but it's really hopeful. Like it swings back and forth. And what we're seeing right now is a renaissance. It's coming. I think it's in Lightning. I think it's in Bitcoin. And we need to make more balanced business models. So it's a great post. Really, really great job, Jim Fox. Hopefully he keeps posting.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen Jim post on Stacker News quite a bit. And yeah, I've seen these pieces from him. So I do think there will be other applications that will live alongside advertising based applications in the future. I don't think they're necessarily mutually exclusive. Or will be entirely replaced. But you already see like what I like about Twitter at the moment is it seems like it's being operated like a startup again, and they're like actually running.
Yeah, right.
They're actually cool. Just like running and gunning. Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, they're totally hip shooting, and so they're basically doing this exact thing where they're experimenting with a hybrid model of advertising and paid, and I think that's cool. And you can also see to some extent you can kind of see this in streaming services already, where they kind of have hybrid models, and those are recently created businesses, and so you can kind of contrast them against this last generation of businesses where they're pure advertising and free. Like these streaming services didn't come up and insert themselves as free; they inserted themselves as, oh, you can pay a little bit of money and get a little bit of ads, or you can pay a lot of money and get no ads. And so, so I think we might see a lot more of this going forward, especially as it already seems like a lot of businesses are doing. And I think, definitely Bitcoin and Lightning will assist us in taking payments from a more diverse set of customers and in a more, in a lower fee, less discriminatory monetary regime as found in Bitcoin. Hey, Kyle, do you want to come in? And
I think he just wants to. He really wants to get on Stacker News. This guy's so thirsty.
Come in.
You may come in.
So Kyle, this is Kyle Murphy.
I called you thirsty.
You're sitting there drinking a coffee in a pink suit. I just want you to say hi to the stackers in your pink suit.
Hello, stackers. Hold on. Zap.
There you go.
No, I just wanted to touch on what you said. I think the thing that I think at Thriller is kind of taking a page from your book is like creating a SAT flow that comes in right? And then also reaching out to some Bitcoin businesses or anybody who's looking to reach a greater audience for that remaining ad revenue. And I think like structural properties, structural business models is the way forward. That's what I've learned in my short time in Bitcoin, and I think this is the way. But this is a good piece.
Yeah, excellent job, Jim Fox.
That's all I got.
That's all you got. We got to go through the super testnet top user segment. We're gonna see who stacked the most this week. And the top stacker was not me because we exclude me, but Nerd to Ninja stacked 17,000 sats. Ben stacked 15. Anita stacked 13. And Tom stacked 13. And top spenders of the week were me, Muzz, RBC K-Man.
Muzzman?
Muzzman.
What are you doing there, Muzzman?
Stacker News itself, I think probably in our Meme Monday thread, spent quite a bit. BTC LN, that's the Lightning Plus, Lightning Network Plus. That's their user handle. Lots of top spenders this week. I did have some feedback from last week. I think some people they feel a little exposed.
By this?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
No wonder Super wants to see it.
So I'm thinking of adding a feature where you can, like, in your settings, say I don't want to be part of the top lists, and then you'll get hidden from these segments and people looking at this kind of stuff in the future. But I'm
trying to load
for now it's there.
Trying to load the boost, but Fountain is not loading. Fudge.
Fountain is down.
No, Fountain's not down. It's working. I'm sure it's working. I just can't load looks like blockchain. We have a lot of people we're boosting. I wish I could scroll it, but I can't. So we'll have to do it next week. Yeah, it's just all stuck.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. There's people. Keep donating sats. Keep listening to Stacker News live. And Keyan, you have yourself a great weekend.
You too, sir.